And you then have to worry, should you be responding to that? The majority seem to want this, and so on. I think that the independence of the judiciary requires that we arm ourselves with some moral and professional armor against these threats. And I think a previous speaker made a remark about the extraordinary pressures that there are to create parallel processes in that other sphere. And it is not possible that we can safeguard the rule of law by trying to respond to this gallery, because this gallery will always be there, and it will always be mixed. And one day when you try to please one group, you will find that you have made another. So that we must find a true compass, a true north. When I was a teacher, I used to tell my students that I thought myself that one of the best ways to have a fulfilling professional career is to stay faithful to the law as you understand it, of course. Because if people wish that the law should flip like a flag in the wind, when they have finished and the wind has settled, they will find you where they left you, which is where the law was. And I think that that's what judges should do. And I think that if we do that, we will find that we do our country a great service, because we stabilize political life, economic life, social life. Because an unpredictable judiciary is a real threat to public order. Lawyers must know, the public must know what will happen when we go to court. If the court is unpredictable, if the law is perpetually in motion, the lawyers don't know what the law is, the judges being guided by superior courts don't know what the law is, because the law becomes a shifting target, then we create a great social instability. A teacher who taught me international law said to me something that I have found useful over the years. It is better to be wrong it is better to be wrong about what the law says. Sorry, I think that's the other way. If you are an advisor to government, he told me, it is better to be consistent than to be right. Because if you are consistent, other governments know how to deal with you. They know that the Republic of Kenya has always insisted the law to be this. And even if they think that is not the law, they have adjusted themselves to live with your interpretation of the law. I think it is important for the judiciary to be learned, but I think it's very important for the judiciary to be consistent and predictable. I will now, because I don't want, you should not in our African culture abuse the generosity of your hosts. So, because I think you will ask me a few questions later, and so that I may show you we have an open dialogue, I want to share with you three concerns that I have myself, and from where I sit about the work that you are doing in the spirit of this interactive exchange. One is about, and maybe let me begin on a good note. A few years ago, when I first went to the state law office, I thought that there was a disconnect between the judiciary as one arm of government and the executive on a very critical question: bail in security-related matters, especially terrorism. I must say that, speaking for myself, I think we have overcome that particular challenge. And I think the judiciary is considering, in my view, in a very fair and independent manner, each case on its own merit. So the other issues I'm going to raise are within this context, that we have discussed some issues, we have made some progress in them. Number one is injunctive relief in respect of major infrastructure projects. I think we need a conversation around this issue because there are the ramifications in some of these cases are so serious that from where we sit, we need to explain ourselves more. Once the drawdown on the money has started, once the drawdown on the financing has started, and once the contractors are in sight, delays of a judicial nature are deemed in the relevant agreements to be political acts. And therefore, we assume, let us put it this way, the Treasury of the Republic of Kenya takes a direct hit from day one of the injunction. Now, I am not suggesting, I cannot suggest that injunctive relief is not a legitimate, but we need to explain ourselves more on the repercussions each time this remedy is deemed to be. That's point number one. And maybe we'll have Professor Odek, maybe this is not the forum, we hope we can have the forum. Secondly, there is a little concern about, and I think here it's the employment court, we would, parastatal nominations appointments have been deemed by the employment court to be employment. And therefore, the executive, in its wisdom, in exercise of statutory power or whatever power, removes board members of state agencies, and they go to the employment court, and either they are reinstated or otherwise their terms are affected in a manner that creates some form of chaos in the sector. So you have changes that have been made by Gazette notice. That's another issue we can discuss at another forum. You know, what is a Gazette notice? It's a notification of an action. What do you do when you suspend a Gazette notice? Do you suspend the notification or do you suspend the appointment? Those are other issues. But this is an area we need a conversation about. And if you note today, we have quite a number of boards that are affected by this sort of orders across the country. And I think, Professor, at an appropriate time, we in the executive need to explain ourselves more as to what the issue there is. Three, and I'm about to finish now, the power of contempt, and we have brought to Parliament last month a new bill on contempt of court. It is a bill that I myself have felt so strongly about for a long time, if for no other reason, for the very ridiculous situation that we are in, where you have to refer to the practice in England on contempt, which really is not good in 2016. But we are very concerned about the use of the contempt power to enforce judicial decrees, money decrees, yeah, by an accounting officer. Because again, you can see that there is a bit of a challenge where the permanent secretary spends a lot of time in court saying, I cannot pay because I have no parliamentary provision for this. I have no budgetary provision. And I think we need a conversation about that. How can we work together, the judiciary, the executive, to make sure that government is paying its debts, but at the same time, the power of contempt is not used to coerce the permanent secretary to transfer money from other programs to avoid being sent to jail. Finally, I want to raise an issue about, and especially this more as regards the supervision of superior court judges of lower courts. I think that one of the challenges we are facing, and I think it's a generational challenge, is that we have had a very large crop of judges retire. And now we have we have those of us in this room today and those below us whom we are supervising. I think that there is a challenge of continuing development of capacity, especially at the resident magistrate, chief magistrate level. And because we've expanded the scope of that court a lot, I think we must find a way of a higher level of supervision. And I don't want to say more about that, but I think it's a very important conversation, especially when we are talking about public confidence in the judiciary. So with those few observations, I repeat, I go back to my message. The invited guest of honor would like you to know that the work you do is valued, highly, highly valued. We know that the stability of our nation depends on what you do in the stations you do, sometimes in very difficult circumstances, in new courts that are in remote areas and so on and so forth. And we would like to continue working with the judiciary to improve terms and conditions, to improve the working environment, and to help message that it is not true that the judiciary is in any form of crisis, and I agree entirely with the remarks of those who've spoken before. We have no crisis whatsoever. We have an institution that is running well. Judge Ibrahim has refused a grand title, but that court is in his very safe hands. We have Judge Karaoke, we have all the other principal judges, and I think you are doing a very good job. And